Today I'm trying out Affinity Designer for the iPad. Hi everyone, Steve Elliott here again, trying out Affinity Designer. I'm really going to push this app to the limits. I've been waiting for this for ages because I loved Affinity Designer on the PC. So now it's on the iPad and we can do vector drawings. I'm setting up a size that I want to use for a t-shirt, 15 inch by 18 inch by 300 dpi. I want the orientation portrait. I want a transparent background, and I also want to create an artboard. Now if you are new to vector images, this will seem foreign. It is nothing like any regular painting app, and you will see why in a minute, because it's more mathematical than it is artistic. You are not using pixels, little dots. If you zoom in, you get little dots with a painting, or with a raster, I think it's called, image. With this, you are plotting points. So I begin by it's a weird bit of software, because first of all it's got personas which runs along the top, and you can see the sort of turquoise blue box selected. That is for the drawing persona. I have selected a paintbrush, which is down the left hand side. You can see the vertical line where I've selected that, and I have chosen an acrylic brush, and that pretty much gives you, even though it's a vector image or a line image, it gives you an effect that looks like it's been done with a paintbrush. And I want to design a t-shirt here for, it's an environmental thing about save the bees. I'm very much into looking after the bees and things like that, because if we lose them, we're screwed. So I thought it would be nice to do something for that, because I haven't done a t-shirt for ages. So here we are, and you can see straight away this is weird, because I've drawn a line and I've got all these strange little points that I can put my pencil on. And here we are. I'm going to zoom in and show you that you can put your pencil on one of them little dots and move it and change the curve. So that is really, really weird if you've never done this before. I've done a lot of vector work because I used to be a sign maker, and we used CorelDRAW actually for doing all the vector images, so we can zoom them up, because you never lose any detail. It always stays crystal sharp, because you are actually enlarging it mathematically, not sort of just scaling it up. So we could do an image on a screen and that looks like sort of a meter long, and zoom it up to 40 meters. And here you can see you can grab lines that you've drawn and move them. So here you can see I wasn't happy with the antennas of this bee, so I start to mess around with them and tilt them a little bit. By grabbing that little white dot at the top, you can rotate things, and by grabbing the other darker coloured dots, you can resize it, so you can make it wider and taller and so on, and get it just how you want. So it is really cool for just tweaking drawings. It's a very different experience to what you get with conventional drawing. So as you can see, this is a bee, and it is flying towards you, because I've got this idea that I want this sort of swarm of bees coming up from sort of tiny little bees from the ground, and then sort of curving around and producing this big bee at the top of the image. So I've just selected everything by tracing the cursor around the whole object. And if you look at the layers, you'll see there's hundreds of layers, because each stroke makes a layer. Simply by pinching all of those layers together with your finger and your thumb, it groups them all together and puts them in one group, which is then manageable, because you need them sort of grouped together so you can move them around as a B and not separate lines. I rename that layer B, and then I choose the stroke icon, because if I scroll up and down, the line thickness doesn't scale with the image. Well, to overcome that, choose the stroke tool, and then near the bottom of the window that pops open when you select the stroke menu, this is on the right hand side. I should be doing that any second now, I guess. Here we go. There we are. You pop open that stroke tool, and then it says scale with object. Slide that across, and then if you zoom in and out again, it will scale with the image. So I now need to colour this image in, and to do that, I am going to change my tool on the left hand side from the brush tool to the pen tool, and then I am going to draw a shape around the head of the wasp, of the bee, and the body of the bee. So it's pretty much the same way as I've drawn the other shapes, except this time it's going to become a shape rather than a single line, because I want to fill these shapes in. And with a vector image, that's what you do. You can see now I'm starting to draw, and there you can see I'm now just moving my pencil and making points and creating that first shape. So that shape is at the bottom of the stack. So when I fill it in, there we are, with orange or whatever colour I like, that doesn't obscure the pencil lines that I've already drawn. And I am going to do a similar shape for the body of the bee, and I am going to fill that in as well. So I'm still on that pen tool, and here we go. If you put the pen down and then drag the pen slightly, you get curved lines. If you just sort of make a point and then move the pen and make another point, you get straight lines. So there we go. I've now got another shape, and I am going to fill that in as well. So I select the object. I now need to go to the layer stack and select that layer and move it to the bottom. So here we are, opening the stack, and you can see that I grabbed that orange shape and I'm dragging it down till it's absolutely at the bottom of the stack. Now we get to a fun bit, because I'm going to change the persona. So if you look along the top, there's a sort of a greeny coloured icon. The first persona is the drawing persona. Then you've got the painting persona, which I'm now in now. You get a totally different set of tools and menus, and I can start painting. So what I'm going to do is paint over these orange shapes with some textured brushes to add a bit of shape to this bee. So I'm going to choose a speckled brush, I suppose, or a spatter brush, and there you can see I'm painting over that. And because the orange shape's selected, it uses that orange shape as a mask, so it doesn't paint outside of that shape. So I'm obviously not happy with the colour there. I changed it slightly, and there you can see I'm painting in these dots, so it gives this sort of a furry texture to the bee, and I can change the colour and paint over that. So although the vector part, all the lines are drawn with vectors, I'm now actually painting in a much more conventional way. I mess about with the tools because this isn't a tutorial or anything like that. It's a try out, so I am sort of feeling my way with it. If you're used to vectors, or if you've used Affinity Designer on the PC, it won't be too much of a problem for you. If you are brand new to vector images, there will be a massive learning curve, because this is not easy to get your head round straight away. There you can see I put some lighter colours on that. I'm now going to do the same with the head of the bee. So all of a sudden, this flat drawing, I think, has got a little bit of shape and dimension to it. So again, I'm using sort of almost, well, I am using black there to sort of really soften the paint into those lines. And I'm quite happy with how it's going. I think I want a little bit more white on the absolute tip of the head of the bee. I keep wanting to call it a wasp because it looks a bit like a wasp, but this is in actual fact a bee. There we go. You can see I put a bit more white on the head of that wasp. So all I've got to do now is the wings. And I'm going to speed this up a bit because I'm going to do exactly the same as I did with the body. So there, it would be, I think, boring and also make the video exceptionally long for me to do that in real time. So I'm doing exactly the same. I've chosen a slightly different brush, which is more of a texture than a spatter, to put this effect on the wings. So I've got a sort of a lavender colour fill on it, and then I'm using this sort of spatter colour or texture to overpaint that again, and I paint it with greys and blacks, and then put some highlights in with white. So there we have my first bee finished, and that's all in one group. What I do then, I want 2 bees for this design, so I start a second one, still on the same artboard and similar sort of size. I'm using the vector tools to draw the outline shape. I try flipping the wing. There we go, saved me having to draw it twice. And I put in those lines and I decided I want it a little bit thinner, because you can adjust the width of these lines, by the way, and you can adjust it to be, if you're using the paintbrush, you can make it pressure sensitive. Along the bottom, there's an option to choose how the brush is affected. So I'm just sort of resizing the whole thing. You have to sort of draw a marquee around everything to select shapes to resize them. Again, once I've got this bee exactly how I want, I draw a box around the old bee, and I will select all of the shapes and then group them together. I did actually make groups of the 2 wings so I could work on them independently, but there we go. I've grouped them all together. So now I have my second bee, and I am going to colour that in exactly the same as I did the first. I'm going to draw a shape at the bottom of the stack, fill that in with an orange, and then use the textured paint in the paint persona to paint that in. There we go. And I do the same on the wings. And we're getting close to having my 2 bees finished. Now, I did say I was going to push this out to its absolute limits, and by that I mean it's nothing to do with the size of the canvas, because that's not really relevant so much when you're using vector images. But what I wanted to do was just duplicate this bee over and over and over again. And I was okay to do the first 2, and then the third one, it started to lag, and then it crashed out on me, and it kept crashing and crashing and crashing. So unfortunately, I couldn't take it any further at this point. So I'm going to make a second video where I finish this design in Affinity Designer on the PC, and I am going to use the golden ratio or golden mean, a grid I've created to help me lay out the design. So I'm going to show you how I use that as well. So please tune in for the second part of this video. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you've liked it and found it useful. If you have, big thumbs up, as always, is much appreciated. And if you are new to the channel, please consider subscribing, because I have lots of videos like this and I would love to be sharing them with you. and don't forget to tick the bell as well so you get informed and notified when I release new vids. Bye!